Into the Nexus is a production of amove.tv. Bookmark Amove TV for other great video games and esports podcasts. Into the Nexus is sponsored by listeners like you via patreon.com/ITN. Greetings and welcome back, everyone, to Into the Nexus, the podcast all about Heroes of the Storm. I'm Garrett Weinzierl, and I'm joined as always by Mr. Kyle Fergusson. How are you doing this fine week, Kyle?
I'm doing fantastic. Tonight we get to join our patrons for the Patron Bonanza.
Yeah, man.
Which it's the last week of the season, which means it's complete wackadoo, which is always delightful.
Are you ready for some Team League cheese?
Oh, yeah. Well, not like structured cheese, just like everyone wants placements and rewards, so we all kind of pile in there, and it's just chaos. It's fantastic.
You say that now, but I bet you we're going to see at least one, like, god tier Cho'Gall comp.
Oh, totally. If I had a structured team, I'd be playing tonight, and I'd be playing through the weekend because crushing feels good. So instead of, like, getting rid of some more normals, like banning out, like Genjis or Garroshes, Stukovs, all that kind of stuff, I think I'm going to ban stuff that people are just really stupid good at playing, like maybe Sonya if we're not going to take it first.
I like that.
Those solo laners that just can't be contended with.
I say go for it. We can deal with a Genji, man. I believe in us. You or I will take a stun. Genji will die. No problem.
We'll get a taunt variant or something. Yeah. I mean, it is the wackadoo time. As I said, this is your warning. I don't tell you I told you so, but no, I'm thinking it out there. All right, this is your warning, everybody. It's last week of placements. Next week is the new season.
It begins.
It's over. If you enjoy structured games, the season is over. But if you want to participate, I'm not one to stop you. Just don't go crying. Nobody cry on Reddit. Don't cry about it because we all knew that's how it goes. How many seasons is this?
This is the time when it gets bananas.
Bizarre, yes.
Yeah. You don't want bananas? Don't buy them.
Though I did have a fantastic bananas game this week. The enemy team in Hero League led with a Yrel and Garrosh. And our tank did not want to be manhandled, didn't want to be thrown around, butted around for their entire game trying to run a structured match. So they just went D.Va. And it was great because, then they embedded a D.Va bomb back in their team and, the throw was already gone. So it was fantastic.
Sounds healthy.
Some of the crazy is worth witnessing.
Good way to live your life or draft your life. I don't know.
That's the goal. Have a drafted life.
Yeah. But we got a thick show again. It's 2 weeks in a row with just a thick show.
Oh, it is a lot of changes. Some of them live, some of them PTR. Of course, that Azmodan Raynor rework pile has revealed itself, though on the PTR. So always kind of a odd environment without MMR and other sort of structured matches to read from.
Yeah. There's quite a bit to talk about. So let's just jump in.
We're on, boys! Ha-ha! Let's liven up this place!
Can stitches play now?
Yeah, I love it when... Oh, cigar fell in the... Oh, wait!
I don't use that one that often because it always makes me laugh. But let's start with what's live in the game right now, and that is Alterac pass balance changes. They have tweaked the Battleground, and I missed this. I missed this entirely. You know how I found out about this? By playing a game with Bo. And he's like, hey, what do you think of the changes? I'm like, wait, whoa, what? I was looking at the PTR. They also put something out on the live game. And he's like, yeah, what are you talking about, man? Pay attention. So it snuck in under my radar.
This is honestly one of those things where they wanted to test this part of it, but the other half of it's on the PTR, so weird.
Yeah, man, but they messed with the generals and the cavalry and the reaver minions. So what happened with the generals first is that they lost 4,000 health. They went from 24,000 down to 20,000, but they now gain 405 maximum health every minute until minute 21, and excluding minute 1.
So this is an odd way to combat perhaps the early dives, the late dive. I'm not really sure what this is doing. This is certainly Blizzard's new new knob. They love spinning the tuning knob right now. They don't know how to fix something. Maybe it's part of the strategy, but they're just going through a lot of heroes. Zagar being one of the big ones recently, and just cranking that 4% to a 5, or even giving it a time-based increase.
Right. We've been seeing this on and off for the year, for the most part. This kind of changes. They really like their scaling changes. But you're right. I'm a little perplexed as well to how this general change is going to affect the game in the long run. What is most noticeable if you're playing this game right now is the change to the cavalry. They no longer gain additional armor for nearby heroes. Still good. I mean, you'll notice that radius is still there. There are still benefits from standing in there, notably the movement speed, for example. But you're not going to be stacking armor on them. Their health was also reduced and went from 10,000 down to 8,000. That's noticeable. Health scaling, however, has been increased, much the same way that what we're seeing with generals. The starting health has been knocked down, but their scaling health is up. So for the cavalry, it's been increased by 19%. The damage was reduced from 85 down to 65. Big cut there, but damage scaling was increased by 22%.
And with all these scaling changes, there's a developing strategy, as we have on many of our maps, where people are just starting to ignore the first one. And in fact, because the timer is so short, increasing by 10 seconds each time the subsequent objective has been taken, I've just seen a lot of people just staying in their lanes. They're going to defend this out. Without the armor now, we can focus it down as a team and kind of move through it Spider Queen style.
Yeah, which I think is fine. I think this feels good overall. The general one, I'm still sitting here scratching my head, but the change to the cavalry, especially when you lose the objective and you're having to fight into this cavalry that's beating down your door with heroes alongside it, it just feels like I and my team as players now have a lot more control over how much damage losing the objective causes on this battleground.
Well, and most heroics that put out some sort of snapshot DPS thing, like a Gargantuan or a Phoenix, something that if you are buffed and you cast it will retain that buff for the duration of the spell, those are heroics. So this damage buff, the armor stacking on top of it, really wasn't coming to effect to the second objective in the first place. It seems okay. I still love the map. I think it's beautiful. It has such a good fight objective, and I'm seeing more and more things like Deckard Cain, people who can do this long range poke, Chromie, Junkrat, Stukov, just performing really well there and keeping that going in that kind of old Cursed Hollow, first objectives last forever kind of way.
Yeah. I have some of the best team fights on this battleground. I really dig that aspect. The overall, like, our understanding of how to play it, what the strategy should be, how to actually win handily, still developing. But if nothing else, I can just say the team fights on this battleground are top notch.
We did talk last week about doing the 1-0-4 split during your objective, sending one up top to kind of distract, get crazy, maybe your pusher there, and the other 4 stacking on top of the cavalry. That strategy hasn't changed for now because of the damage buff, because of the movement speed buff, but these things are going down fast.
Yeah, they are. We didn't mention the Reaver minions yet, have we?
No, and those are the Catapult Gnolls.
Yeah. So their damage scaling has increased by 50%, which again makes me go, wait, why did we mess with the generals?
It seems kind of backwards, right? Like, so much of this is like, okay, we've done this before, you change the scaling, but then the punishment to the generals is going up too. So I know on their data here, they've said that they found some late game deadlocks, which happens in Tomb of Spider Queen as well. When everyone gets to 20, summons stop mattering for the most part because there's so much collateral and splash damage and bonus against minions and monsters and whatnot that in certain situations, games just don't end. So it feels like they're saying, all right, everybody, at 21 minutes, we want this game to be done.
Yeah, which I don't necessarily get. Maybe I'm projecting here, Kyle. Like, am I crazy? Like, I really want the crux of this game, the highlight of every single time that I'm on Alterac Pass, to be the fight around the generals, whether I am defending my own or pushing on the enemies. I want them to last a while. I want to see a wipe on I haven't seen a wipe on the general yet. If a honest to God general attempt happens, the game's over. And that's just how it feels, and that's weird. Now, again, I still haven't had a ton of games. I'm still not getting lucky with getting Alterac past the pop. But the few games I have had, it just doesn't seem like we're having the epic battles against these generals that I was really hoping for.
Well, I think we're missing that sound, that charge noise that does the kunk knockdown. We don't have a knockdown effect in the game. We have stuns, we have lifts that spin people. But remember those generals in Alterac Valley. If you walked in that door and you weren't the main tank, if you were tank spec even, but you weren't the focus of the supports, you were dead. And so when I was in the game yesterday and the enemy team, without reinforcement, collapsed onto the general here, Zul'jin led the charge. And I'm like, oh, Zul'jin's out in front. He's not dead. He didn't die. The general didn't knock him out in one blow. What happened?
Yeah, I don't know. It's just odd. I've never really thought of having a satisfying defensive experience in this game. Normally, if I'm winning, I'm happy. It's great, and winning on this map feels good. However, I feel like defending. I feel like watching the enemy pushing on your general. You should be kind of like snickering, be like, yeah, let them come. But in this game, I'm panicking because I'm like, crap, they're on the general. There's nothing we can do.
Right, it's that feeling of Illidan's on the core. Oh, that means you can't lock him down. He's going to be all over it. You know, so many times when we've done big core defenses, it's only with the aid of a silence from Sylvanas, late game Entomb, or Stukov that people are actually limited in their mobility enough to lock them down, to keep them in a group that splash damage from the core is actually deadly.
Yeah, so I don't know. I'm willing to admit I think a decent amount of this comes from my experience in actual Alterac Valley in World of Warcraft and kind of remembering that experience. But at the same time, this is also, I'm getting it reminds me in a very strange way of when Volskaya launched and we're sitting there being like, well, why are we even bothering with the robot? The only difference is obviously this is a core. Like, you're going to interact with it at some point, but it feels like an afterthought, much the same way that the Triglav felt like an afterthought when Volskaya launched.
Well, and so many times in my own organized play or even Hero League, I'll make a request to the team that we fight away from the core to make sure in the late game they can't just right-click it down. We got to pick that fight out in front of it a ways, so if they try to get to the core, they're isolating themselves. We're picking the fight in that way. I think we're both in agreement that it feels like he's backing us up. He's dead. What?
The game's over. Yeah, it should be a rally. It just doesn't feel that way.
Sure, no one wants to die at the core, though. You know, you win the team fight, everyone's dead for half an hour, 30 seconds, and you get on it, and then you lose, and you're all dead, and then they come back, and I get it. It's not Heroes of the Storm.
True. But I think there's still some tweaking that needs to happen there. Needs to get pushed a little more time bacon. Let's see what happens there. But anyway, this is live, and if nothing else, fighting against the cavalry if you lose the objective feels so much better. So plan those defenses and also plan those attacks, because you really have to back these cavalry up now if you want to do some damage.
Oh, and really take advantage of the things you have left, like the damage and movement speed auras that are available to you.
Yeah. But let's talk about what is coming, Kyle. There are a lot of previews about what will be coming to Heroes of the Storm, specifically with Season 3, which, as you mentioned at the top of the show, starts next week. And let's kick it off with the third ban. We are getting our third ban. It is... And as previously announced, they are not going to shove it in the middle of the bans and picks. It's going to be front loaded, as much of the community requested when this was originally released. So that third ban is being added. It's being added in the initial phase. We're going to alternate until each team has banned 2 heroes before we start picking. And also the number of level 5+ heroes required to participate in Hero League. This isn't something we talk about very often on the show because this almost never changes, but it's changing now. That has been increased from 14 to 16, as it should. 2 more bans means 2 more heroes. You need to have ready draftable heroes. You need to have them ready. And
as always, when we move into a new season, you got to be ready to draft, and you got to think about what your through line is going to be when you're drafting. I kind of vary my main a lot based on what I'm actually playing at the time. When I'm a Diablo one-trick pony, well, guess what? I'm a tank main, because when I show Diablo, and then I lose Diablo because he's overpowered or a popular pick at the time, I gotta have another tank ready to make sure that I'm a good participant in my team, and I don't just go, oh, I lost Diablo, I'm Zool, everybody, and I was like, what? That doesn't make sense. How could you do this to us? And not only that, you don't just go straight onto something like Johanna. You have already shown a dive tank, so maybe Varian or Muradin would be good for you. Even Yrel can kind of communicate that. So when we start thinking about in terms of draft here and looking at the numbers, there's some scary things for some mains out there. Looking at the stats, Chromie has a 65% popularity in this game. She participates in 65% of drafts, but mostly in bans, 17,000 bans at the moment, according to Hotslogs. Chromie, Garrosh, Genji, and Stukov are the top 4 before we do a big fall off to Kael'thas because he's really only banned in the lower leagues. If you play one of those 4, there's a good chance you're not playing your hero anymore at all.
It's a good thing to keep in mind. And this comes up with you and I a lot when we talk about bans, and that's are you good at a popular hero? Because you need to keep that in mind. You have it in the back of your head that it's very likely that your hero is going to get taken. I've been having to deal with this with things like Sonya and Zagara in recent times. And so you need to, we always recommend sit down. If you like pen and paper, actually sit down with a notepad and figure it out. Figure out what your picks are, especially what your plan is. If you start figuring out in which scenarios you want to be playing your mage characters, figure out your backups if those mage characters get taken or banned.
It's going to be interesting to see if people develop a strategy to restrict a certain role. We're at a healthy enough hero pool that we're not in dire straits if all 4 of the bans go into support or they all go into tanks. It certainly would make for an interesting game. And in fact, one of the things interesting about the PTR right now is they made a very large buff to Lifebinder on Alexstrasza, what you could basically call her ancestral heal heroic. Well, Rhaegar's pretty popular right now. He's likely to get banned if there's 2 bans available. And now Alexstrasza can kind of fill that role, perhaps.
Yeah, actually, a lot of times on this show when we say, yeah, I like this hero, but this other hero is just an easier version of play, that's actually not a bad way to pick your backups if certain heroes get picked.
Yeah, even something like Phoenix has some mobility, but people dislike him. Still no real Junkrat bans rolling around out there. I'm going to keep pushing him until something happens to him. Granted, you got bad talent diversity at the moment on Junkrat. But other than that, great hero.
Yeah, so keep that in mind. We're going to talk about drafting on and off for the next few weeks as we move into Season 3. And you can definitely go and look up prior episodes where we figure out rosters. We've done it many, many times. So I would recommend digging those up and listening to them. As far as what else is changing in Season 3, seeding is changing. Players who enter ranked play for the first time are no longer going to be seeded into placement matches higher than Gold 5.
Yes. So this information is not complete. It is part of old information that was revealed to us. You can place at Gold 5, but you can also place a league below and a league above. So you can be Silver 5, you can be Plat 5 at the end of these placements.
Right. Also, players who return to Hero League after an extended break will no longer be reseeded into placement matches based on their performance in other modes. This was a big sticking point in the community, including on this show.
It's as someone who enjoys the solo play experience, I was always sad to hear from some of our friends that they were gaming the system by grinding out with their best team, their unranked MMRs, so that when they got back after taking 2 seasons off, that they were better at Hero League. And that's just a scary thought to someone who actually generically or legitimately enjoys Hero League.
Right. It is a way to game the system. So
no more.
That's out of here. Gonna have to play. And rank point decay is being brought in, but only for Diamond and above. So if you're in Diamond Master or Grandmaster Hero League, and you place in the current system but haven't completed any games in a while, you're going to be considered inactive, which is a new kind of term that they're coining that kind of plays into this rank point decay. And once you become inactive, you're going to receive a small amount of rank and MMR decay each day until you complete 1 Hero League match. And the amount that you do decay and how many days it takes for you to get marked as inactive all depends on what league you're in. So Diamond, for example, it takes 20 days for you to be marked as inactive, whereas Masters is 15 and Grandmaster is only 10.
Seems healthy, I think. Certainly, if right now in this season, 5 days, you didn't know what the heck was going on anymore in these ranks. And 10 days, it seems very giving for Grandmasters who are fully invested. Masters, Diamond, 20 days, fantastic. There's also going to be additional grace period that you can sort of build up by playing regularly. So if I wanted to take a 30-day break from Hero League, my points would not be affected. That sounds crazy to me with how fast this game changes.
Yeah, but also to a certain degree, it could be a day, dude. I mean, if you were playing on Tuesday, patch drops Wednesday, you come back on Thursday and you haven't read the notes, I'm dying a Raynor. What happened?
Yeah, that's true.
So, I mean, just the iteration cycle on this game is quick, and that is not a complaint. I love it. But I think that this being added is good, whether it's a little long or not. It's something that can easily be adjusted. This is a new knob, right? Like, it's very easy for them to add or take away days if it's not seeming like the system is doing what it's intended to.
And I think it's rightfully giving. It is a video game. No one's signing up for a job when they install a free-to-play game on our client.
Right, but at the same time, I think it's good to have this in here. I would not be opposed to this reaching a little further down the line of leagues.
Yeah, I think the odd part about it is, of course, for the new accounts, which we can say with the 16 hero requirement, it's even harder to get your Smurf together to get into Hero League to try to get that gold 5 if you're hanging out in bronze and feel like you can't get out. What if they drop you on the edge of silver and then you fall into bronze? Maybe that makes bronze a more enjoyable experience because it is actually the people who lost those matches in placement and then lost further to get there. It's not like you're dropped there from the very beginning and that's where you're going to stay forever. I've heard from a lot of people, though, particularly Plats, that they would love some decay. At that point, we're getting to 40 days kind of looking, and that just doesn't really matter at that point.
That's true, but I would be fine if they just did stop increasing it, right? Like if they were just, Diamond is lowest at 20 days, and if they bring this into Platinum, it's 20 days. They don't add any more days at that point.
Yeah,
that's kind of what I would put forward as what I would like to see. I would love to see this moved into Plat. If nothing else, try it, see how it goes. But let's see this roll out. Let's see how the system works, if it works, and go from there. So there's a lot of other stuff in here. If you haven't read the blog, a lot of it is kind of nitty-gritty number crunchy for players in Master League and above. So I don't really want to get into it because it's pretty specific. You should go read it if that's going to affect you. The one thing I did want to bring up is the section that they were talking about match quality restrictions and notifications. And this is interesting because it talks about queue time. That's something that we always cover on the show. So players below Master who have waited fewer than 3 minutes in queue will not be placed into any matches that are outside of the game quality restrictions that would have been used if the match had been formed around that player.
Correct. And there's even some caveats if you're in parts of the world where the servers aren't as populated, and these can go on for like an hour in certain cases.
Yeah, that's the next thing. They said you're now going to receive a notification in the UI when these quality restrictions are expanded. And then they even go on to talk later on in the stricter rank difference requirements that these restrictions will not loosen for players in Europe and North America. However, it can loosen in other regions if you've waited in queue for over an hour. That just sounds horrible to me. I'm so sorry if anyone out there is having to deal with an hour of queue.
Yeah, that ain't right. But, I mean, if there ain't people online to play a multiplayer game, there's no multiplayer game to be had. So what do you do in that case? I think this is really cool for the people who cared. And I don't mean that in like a negative way or a Joshin way. Like, if you hit that 600, we all kind of thought in our heads, uh-oh, here comes the oddball match. And now it'll 100%, if you didn't know that rule in the past, let you know, all right, You can stop right now. Go to bed. Go to bed if you want. But we're going to find you a weird match, okay?
Yeah. It's a good quality of life change, making it more and more noticeable that these rules are being loosened up.
Perhaps the most interesting thing about this is the ratings rather than points. And when you look at something like Master, where there's such a crazy divide in the skills between even something 10,000, maybe, depending on where you are in the season, 10,000 isn't even Grandmaster. But that Master's player is flagged as Master. And so is the 1,000 guy. And so is the 100 guy and the 3,000 point guy. And they would all just be Master flagged and thrown into a match together. And now those points are going to have an impact when you're getting that match going. And I think this is our first foray into the MMR coming.
What do you think? You're making that sound ominous.
It'd be interesting. It's a big number. I think that would help, mentally when you lose 5 points instead of 200 and see that bar go so dramatically. Really, it's not that far, right? I mean, how many ranks and how many points altogether? 200 isn't a big deal when you look at all of Diamond as one big thing. But, those 3 points that you missed out on that didn't get you to that promotion, they hurt. If we took that to a flat 5 and 10 and incrementally increased our MMR, I think we might have a little bit more of a positive exchange with people who grind this game.
Oh, so you're saying you're what you're hoping for is transparent MMR. Just put the number out.
Okay. And across the board, we can keep the leagues perhaps, because those are great bragging rights and those are great tools to share with your friends and ways to communicate as a community what your skill might be. And now Masters is going to be really dependent on those points as we see them. But my Masters 1000 isn't Dungtrain's Master 1000 anymore. And so we've got a disconnect there that needs to be fixed eventually.
What would you suggest?
MMR. Flat MMR. Show the numbers. We're both in Masters, but he's 4,000, I'm 3,200. Real clear in that skill kind of deduction from the machine.
I wouldn't be against it. Do you think players would have an issue if that didn't necessarily match up with the league you're in or the league number that you're in?
Maybe.
Do you think that's a hesitation showing how the sausage is made and say you're 500 points off from what the average is for the league that you're in?
Right, and you don't belong in this place anymore, but you've somehow held on to it because the league is still sitting on top of the MMR with the rank points. It's starting to get messy, but we've already seen the picture of the upcoming mount that's going to be part of next season, and no change to those rewards. So it doesn't seem like that's happening soon.
Right. I'm just always interested about that. I could see a hesitation by the developers in that regard, that there now might be a heavier emphasis on the importance of the link between your actual MMR and where you sit in the league.
Right. And for conversation's sake and hanging out with people's sake, well, the last thing I really want is, there's a bunch of people sitting around and be like, yeah, my Master's such a crazy place. And you walk up and you're like, yeah, I know. And they're like, what point are you? And I'm like, well, I'm 1,000. And they're like, yeah, but what 1,000? What? I thought, and then you just walk away because you're not wearing brand name clothes, kind of thing.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's its own thing, right? That's more of a social discussion, but I wouldn't be too worried about it. We've had individual numbers in Legend rank and Hearthstone for a long time now, and it ain't so bad.
How legendary are you?
How legendary are you? Not legendary at all, Kyle. That's my answer.
Me neither. 16, I think, is my high. No, I got 8 once during Reno Lock.
I was about to say, I remember you at one point when you were chaining Warlock games, getting up into the single digits.
Yeah.
It's a good man. There are also some map changes coming next season. First up, mercenaries. Just in general, we're not going to be able to heal, shield, or target allied mercenaries with abilities unless an ability specifically spells out that mercenaries are valid targets.
this won't affect really too many people except for those who shouldn't be accidentally healing mercenaries in the first place. And this is pushing us towards that great landscape of like Magic the Gathering, where death touch means death touch. And Hearthstone has this as well. The text has a keyword, and that's what it means. And right now it's enemies and allies. If it's enemies, that's anything at all that could possibly damage you or can be targeted by you. And allies is anything that is on your side. Minions, mercenaries when they're captured by you, your friendly monsters. So don't take this too... It's not bad. Malfurion's already gotten protection against this because his spells are kind of important. You don't want to put a hot on a minion accidentally when you need those stacks for half your talents. Morales is fine. That was probably the biggest scare for a lot of people. If you play Morales, you know you got to heal on some weird stuff sometimes because it heals you as well. That's how you get your health back if no one's hanging out by you. You're okay.
So are they changing the text on hers? I haven't actually looked this up to say that, hey, you can heal mercs.
Right, it just says allies at this point.
Allies, gotcha.
Meaning you can heal all these things.
Wonderful. Well, that's good. That was about my only holdup. I overall was like, oh great, if this means I don't accidentally heal a mercenary when I don't want to, I see that as a good thing.
I mean, there's still some holes in it that I'd like fixed, like Uther. That's an important cooldown. I don't want that hitting a minion, mercenary, or monster.
Yeah. Well, we will see. Alterac Pass is so this is not live. These are changes that are coming with Season 3. Ice Giants. The attack speed is being reduced by roughly 30%. The neutral Ice Giant attack damage has been increased from 240 to 312. And a captured Ice Giant's attack damage has been increased from 400 to 520. So not attacking as fast, but hitting like a truck when they do.
These things were really dangerous, even for the soloables, particularly Varian. And if you keep your 2 charges of parry, you will do a much better job on the Ice Giant now. Used to be with his previous attack speed, he'd just keep on slamming between cooldowns a little too much.
Yep. This is also going to make me feel like a badass. One of my favorite things in this game is like when that keep has that sliver of health left and you're like, oh, if that boss lands one more hit and you burn it down just in time, it just feels good.
He's a big guy. I want to see that thing move.
Yeah. Cavalry is getting adjusted further. The damage bonus provided by cavalry units is now a flat 10% and no longer scales with each completed event. That doesn't need to scale.
Yeah, work that into your mind somewhere. But yes, it doesn't need to scale, particularly the first one and then into the heroics later on that are better than the first one in perspective. They've added crits as well on this last patch. So you will now, while inside the aura, see crits on your auto attacks and your spells. So you really feel that communication that you're buffed inside the aura.
Yeah. Battlefield of Eternity is getting some UI updates. The minimap icons for Immortals are changing. So the opposing Immortal now uses an icon depicting crossed axes, and the allied Immortal is going to display a shield icon. So basically the one that you want to attack will look like an attack icon, and the one that you want to defend will look like a shield.
Exactly the same as Alterac Pass. It's great. I don't know about y'all, but all the time I gotta go, Angel, okay, right, I'm an Angel. Oh, I'm on the devil side. Yes. Okay. Got it.
Yeah. I also kind of get confused by that as well. So it's good. Braxis Holdout beacons. This is cool. They now become contested immediately when heroes from both teams are on the point.
Just diving straight to halfway. If you get on that point, you will turn it off.
I'm really excited about this.
It's a pretty crazy change when we mix it with the Zerg wave change.
Yeah. So your baseline Zerg wave has been strengthened, as they put it, significantly. And they say it should encourage teams to split up in order to defend against an incoming Zerg wave rather than send all 5 players to attack with the allied wave, which is nuts.
Yeah. So just flat, you used to get 6 Zerglings. Nobody cared.
No, not at all.
If you rock that objective, you're going to win a 10-minute game. You're just going to run all into the 5 pile, push, and maybe even get the keep. Now, a completely unaugmented Zerg wave is going to give you one Ultralisk and one Guardian. And that Guardian has that increased range. He's going to take out buildings if left alone, just like many of our range mercenaries do. This is a big change. And in particular, when I teach people Braxis and they're not sure what to take, I've been telling them Muradin for a long time. You pop that avatar, hold that. Oftentimes, even tonight, this change isn't live yet. You'll be hearing me yell, hold for points, 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 points. Because if you just stick your butt there and die for it, we're going to get a big old rockin' Zerg wave. That's not the case anymore. You got to get them off the pad. If you're Muradin, you got to defend out in front of your pad to make sure they don't touch it and ruin your channel.
Yeah. And again, just a reminder, these are changes for next week when Season 3 goes live, not live at the moment. It's kind of nuts, man. And it's kind of, to me, I'm reading into this, and to me, it's like they're making a statement about the design philosophy. But it's twofold. Like, at first, I read this change, and I'm like, oh, it seems like they're wanting to buff if you lose an objective. Well, then what about binary objectives like Infernal Shrines, for example, or Alterac Pass? And that's where, I think the actual statement they're making is, which is, we're going to adjust based on the battleground individually, what we think is right for that battleground, and we're not going to make some blanket statement about how we think objectives should work across the entire game.
Right. If anything, this is close to Sky Temple, a really, really fast Sky Temple, because once you get on that pad, it kind of goes like, is this contested? Pew, pew. Okay, I'll stop. Whereas Dragonshy right now, the pads look very similar, but those are hold for points in a sense, but you still got to channel that objective in the middle. So you're splitting people, holding it out might be a little more of a strategy. There's not a cohesion across these maps, but it does feel really good for Braxis.
Yeah. And I don't disagree with chat room. Muffin Pickle saying it seems like it could make things take a lot longer to fill the bars, but I think it's okay. I think my issue with Braxis is how volatile the team fights are. They don't seem to last a long time. I like long team fights. I like to have to work for the objective. That's what's Alterac Pass is making me work for the objective. Cursed Hollow has always made me work for it. Dragonshire has always made me work for it. So
and it's tough to come up with really powerful heroics and abilities that would even be online for the very first objective when you start to build that advantage over your enemy. Something like Holy Ground, going to be a bit better. Now, Tyrael on Braxis, how weird, but that's at level 13. You're not going to use that very early. Maybe we need things like Haymaker to push them off the pad rather than Avatar to hold the pad.
Yeah, maybe. I like that idea. I didn't really think about it adjusting talent picks. But you're right. Changing how something behaves makes you think about the game in a different way.
It also really increases the interactive nature of the merc camps, because now it's easier to hold out, which means if you can do it with less people, you can spare that guy to go take a merc camp, get the lane advantage. Then they have to address that. So there's a bit more ebb and flow. On the surface, it is a butting heads, going to last you a long time. But when you start thinking of other ways to counterplay, like going and taking their fort because they're too busy manning the pad because they don't want you on it, that's strategy.
Yeah. Calls must be made. And they're going to change depending on what's happening at that very moment. And that's exciting. That makes for good games.
Plus the defending, if you completely rock it, you still got to take care of that Guardian. I think it's going to work out for the best.
Yep. And then we're also getting some balance changes when Season 3 begins next week. Pretty minor here. Cassia, Blinding Light, now also deals 50 damage. It goes up 4% per level to enemies in the target area of Blinding Light.
A little more lane clear for Cassia. Actually, Cassia is having a huge performance right now. She is shredding Garroshes and Urels, because guess what? They make her move. And if you're in motion, you have your armor. So if you're looking at the enemy team and you're saying, how am I even going to get to play this video game? They're just going to knock me around like crazy.
Oh,
ride it.
Yeah, you're just sitting there being like, oh, I'm supposed to pick Cassia.
Yeah.
Well, what if Cassia gets really popular and we loop all the way back into our early draft discussion and people just start banning or taking her? What do you take there in response? I don't think there's really another hero that does what Cassia does.
No, not really. I mean, you have some heroes that can help you recover, like Medivh, depending on your league. That can be a popular counter to Garrosh. Diablo who can charge back over a wall if he rides the ride.
This is the first
right,
time in my life where I think I like the Medivh suggestion more than the Diablo suggestion.
Tracer's a good one too.
True. Chromie, Time Trap. So melee heroes who can see a Time Trap can now use melee attacks to destroy it without triggering its effect. This has bothered me forever. I am so happy about this.
Yeah, it's a good change.
Like
And even heroes that had the increased range.
my bone wings have a little bit of range on them. Why does it pop?
I know, that's a great range too. You can reach over the top of things like Entomb. I mean, that's the whole point of something like Kerrigan, is to have that bonus range. Big, tall, skelly bro. Leoric, he's got huge range on him, but he still pops that.
Yeah.
And as a tank, my previous strategy versus Chromie was, all right, I'm going to go soak the Time Trap so that it doesn't interrupt one of our main heroics or something important on the minimap. But a lot of Chromies nowadays are doing Timely Surprise. Whenever you trigger the Time Trap, she gets a cooldown reset on her Sandblast and her Dragon's Breath. So it was a very bad thing to do. You just had to leave them sitting there, which denied too much area.
Yeah. Yeah, I like this change a lot. I really do. Alexstrasza is the final hero here, and it's the Lifebinder Heroic now also heals Alexstrasza and her target for 300 health per second during channeling.
So just like your Rhaegar there with your level 13 shield talent, you get that sort of buffer to keep them alive, and it goes fast. This says per second. This is one of those flowing. The numbers just kind of roll. It's not a ding, ding, ding. Oh, there you go. It's like, okay, you're healed. It's great. And this could mean some life binders. Already Alexstrasza is having a better performance, and if we start banning out more and more healers, we'll see more and more Alexstrasza.
Yep. All right, Kyle, it's time. Raynor and Azmodan are on the PTR. We have had a chance to play with their reworks. Let's start with Raynor, because let's be honest, I think we're both more excited for him.
Well, he has been gifted the busted tag by the community. People are very excited for Raynor.
Yeah. So PTR Qs are terrible. I've only played against AI. This is the first time I've played against AI, and I feel like it's busted.
I did get to play against some real people. I waited so long they didn't get a support. So again, grain of salt, but it is actually broken at the moment. It says that you do a 125% bonus damage increase on your 4th basic attack, and the splash damage is supposed to be normal. It's actually increased. There's some other numbers that don't quite match up. Right now, he gets a level 1 executioner talent that doesn't only affect auto attacks, it affects everything, which means mix that with an earthquake because you got yourself an enhanced Hyperion again.
Yeah, which that seems unintentional. I would expect that and the splash damage to be modified to be addressed when this goes live.
Right. Overall, you're looking at a less survivable Raynor because the heal is decreasing. But if you can get those auto attacks out, you'll have more heals. When we start to get into that, plus he has a scaling auto attack that's 5%, but his attack is lower, but his 4th attack is bigger and splashes. It's really tough to get a read on what his actual power level is. He feels like Phoenix, honestly. When we start thinking about the way Phoenix can clear a lane with just his autos, Raynor has that aspect to him. A nice little self-heal. His pushback, still as powerful as it ever was, but now it's based on range and has a 20% baked-in slow. If ETC comes, and of course, ETC being one of those that's like, here I come, I'm going to stun you. You're like, no, you're not, and you just pop him. If he's in melee range, he's going to go far. But if he's distant, he doesn't go very far. Think about that, and think about how many times on our Raynors we've saved an enemy Chromie by pushing them away. That max range push is real tiny now, plus a 20% slow. Whereas pushing off that ETC, still a great strategy, gives you lots of distance.
Yep. Still good, though. I mean, it's better than nothing. You should not be helping your allies by trying to upset the enemy with a push. But yeah, you're absolutely right. It is a rather cute thing. The lane clear, though, again, it's part of the reason his lane clear is so just gross right now is the fact that the splash damage is a crit, and it shouldn't be.
Right. And we'll see what happens in there.
But it's still splash damage at the end of the day. Every Raynor everywhere has always, you immediately figure out, oh yeah, I use my pushback as they're all filing in as a line. Then I pop Inspire on my wave and I just clear it all out. Splash, whether it's a crit or not, is just going to make it even easier.
Well, and remember our mouth heal balance changes from long ago. Now you're not using that penetrating round to clear the lane, which was coming as they connected, which means you use it as the opener to the lane collapse, which after the lane collapse, once things are nice and targeted up, that's when the ganks are going to happen. You didn't have your pushback for the gank that came, and you died. Now you clear it without it. Now, I mean, imagine Phoenix using his teleport so he could enhance his lane clear. Like, horrible idea. Or you see, like how many? Oh, great example. Sylvanas. We all get excited for this one. Sylvanas is like, haunting wave helps me clear, and you're like, you're dead, girl. You just run out there and get her.
Yep.
Same thing. Now that's free.
It's more subtle.
Your kit. Yeah,
it's more subtle. Plus, it's this whole conversation is so odd because he is a little overtuned right now with some bugs. But the fact that you have to activate his heal, it's on an extremely long cooldown. It gets shorter by landing auto attacks. This makes you put yourself in harm's way. It makes you go ham after you pop your heal because you're like, oh man, if I just land more attacks, I got my heal again. Be careful out there, new Raynors.
But you have it's tough. It's such a mental game. And there's a reason why we all on Raynor take focused attacks. It's because when you deal 60% additional damage on your first basic attack, when you get into a team fight, that enemy Lunara that you targeted goes, whoa, Raynor, he's insane. I can't fight this. And she starts to gallop away. But when you lead in without focus attacks, if you took another talent there, you're doing incremental, tiny baby damage. And she doesn't care. And she's going to stand her ground. Well, now with this Give 'em some pepper, renamed by the community, by the way, from something expose weakness. Yeah, great choice. I'm glad they listened. They even ruined their own video so that this could be a reality.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
So much better. So much better.
Now you're going to, maybe like Samuro, farm up 3 attacks in lane, maybe on a nearby wall, and then go join the team fight. In fact, a lot of your talents are based on getting a peppered attack into the enemy for a stack of something. So you can kind of prep this and then inspire yourself. Granted, one of the big kind of nerfs you could say, or I would say it's an excuse to just not get cute in the first place. You have to talent and inspire helping your allies at all. It's only going to work for yourself and your nearby allied non-heroes.
Right. Quick question. I looked, admittedly not that hard. I was so excited to just go play Raynor. Is there any indication, because I could not find one, of if you're on the first, second, or third basic attack before you're giving some pepper pops?
No, we don't have like a burning blade icon that kind of fills up. You do look like you're getting scanned, or maybe that you're suffering from a slight stim pack.
Yeah, I want to see something like that, because I found myself constantly counting in my head, and it was driving me a little batty.
And I wouldn't be surprised if that's just something they're holding off on. They don't know if they want to go to 4 auto attacks, 3, 5. That graphic would change.
Yeah, but overall, really like him. We haven't talked about dude, the Banshee. The Banshee's amazing.
Yeah, it's a Misha.
It is. It's so simple to control. You just have R, and you just press R wherever you want it to go, and you can Alt R to just auto recall it. I was looking for like the return button, and there isn't one. You can just self cast it.
It's an eager beaver. It'll start attacking things if you are on your mount. If you're riding by and someone has aggroed a mercenary camp, it'll just start helping out. It's an adorable pet. Hyperion completely unchanged in comparison. Your Banshee does automatically respawn after 45 seconds. So if it does get killed, and you know what? This thing can soak tower shots if you want. You can go in there and just start having at those walls, if they still exist at 10, and get them down with a healthy Banshee.
Yeah. Kid Miles in the chat room says that they will have that counter that I'm hoping for in the game that was there, but it got bugged with the name change.
Oh, okay, that makes sense. And there's still a lot of you could call them typos, but hey, I'm just happy that they were up for the community's name, and it's a cute name. We love Raynor's lines.
I love the interaction in this game between the devs and the community.
Yeah, I mean, if you follow, game devs on Twitter, there's a lot of them that are like, you Heroes of the Storm folks don't know how good you have it. These guys are saints and listen to you nonstop.
I'll tell you, I do a Hearthstone show. I know how good we have it. We have it
That's
very
true.
well. We have it very well. It is the polar freaking opposite over on Hearthstone. It feels like StarCraft 2 Wings of Liberty days. Like they're just up in their tower, and every now and then they open a window and yell something at us.
We want changes. You'll get an expansion.
Pretty much. But wait,
It's an elemental.
hey, but what about? Oh, they're gone.
Why is it an elemental? I'm so underwhelmed by elemental decks, in my opinion.
You should be.
Okay,
They're
cool.
underwhelming. Anyways, there's also, we haven't really mentioned the Warchrome event, but we're basically getting a Mad Max event, and Raynor's getting a new skin, and it looks amazing. However, not as amazing as Nazebo's. I want the skin. I need it in my life.
Yeah, they actually solidified his tunic so that it could be a stoplight.
Oh my god, I didn't notice this.
Yeah, it's a full-blown street stoplight with the red, yellow, yep.
Oh my god.
And it hangs and swings as one big solid unit.
Oh, it's so good. Oh, I love a solid swinging unit.
Oh, it's great. I mean, Azmodan's even getting a charge ability, and they put like a spinning blade on the front of him. His hand has a laser hold that spins while it goes. Like, I mean, granted, we saw a little bit of this with even Deckard, as funny as that is to say, but Garrosh's skins. And these seem to be the big pile behind it. I absolutely understand, though. Holding out for a rework, great time to sell some skins.
Yep. All for it. I want that Raynor skin. It's great. It's good.
Yeah, the
It's real
Ghost
good.
Rider.
Yep. It is fantastic. Any final thoughts on Raynor before we move on and talk about Azmodan?
I just hope he's banned on BOE. Not because I just don't want to see Hanzo picked anymore. I just want to see people be like, you got to get rid of Raynor. He's too powerful. That'd make my day.
All right, so the Azmodan rework's also playable. Not doing it for me, man.
You gotta think a little differently with the Azmodan.
You do, but I am. But it's weird. So, all right. So you weren't stoked that Stacks Azmodan was becoming the only Azmodan.
Sure.
Have you been convinced otherwise?
Not really. I do like my specialist to be very whimsical, but this enhances his role, makes him better than Fat Chromie, you could say. It gives him his own personality, which I respect. And from the Azmodan players I've talked to, they're very excited for it. The auto attack talents are superb. But one of the things you really have to take note of when you look at Azmodan is it's all about the Globe of Annihilation. That is his heroic. Kind of like Stukov, in a way. If he didn't have such pretty, dramatic heroics, compared to Lurkin Arm, they're a little lame. And you know what? Both of Azmodan's heroics are bad. If you could take normal talents, you'd probably take those instead.
Yes, they are lackluster. I'm so glad you bring up Stukov, though, because Stukov's the same. Like, his heroics are lame, man. They're not exciting heroics.
Yeah.
Maybe a sweet arm here and there, but overall,
But even the sweetest arm like lasts too long and gets you caught in a team fight, you know?
Yeah. It's funny because the orb empowering heroic, which name is eluding me at the moment because we have so many notes that I can't find it quickly. Tide of Sin is one of the few things, the few glimmers of hope in my mind. The few things that might bring me around to Azmodan. So I guess to get my personal bias out of the way, I just don't like the stacks. I feel like I'm signing up for a chore when I pick Azmodan. He feels to me like a chore to play. And he still does.
Yeah, and you are going to be much like, Nazebo, kind of focused on stacks, otherwise maybe a little lackluster in the late game. You do have a level 20 talent that if you can complete all 400 stacks, you can get an additional bonus on top of that. And maybe Azmodans will be aiming for that. But there's a lot of quality of life changes here for fighting Azmodan. And if you're already a good Azmodan, you're going to be better for more of the game without heroic cheese, without spinning your laser around and getting ganked, but hey, worth it for it. There's a lot of good stuff here.
That's a good point. Yeah, if you were already good at playing stacks, Azmodan, you're going to be amazing now because there's even more ways to get stacks. If you, like me, were not great at getting stacks before, it's not that much easier, and it still feels not particularly fun.
And, we brought up his heroic Tide of Sin. You get that, no mana cost, 50% more damage, Globe of Annihilation. 50% more damage is going to be a lot if you are a stacking champion. But it's still, you got to click your R and then click your Q. It doesn't give you a free one, which was kind of my thought with a heroic, right? That should be a powerful thing, perhaps.
Yeah, if it's on cooldown, give me another one right now.
Right. Maybe I get 2. But that's where all his power is, and we have to keep that in mind. Demonic Invasion is very much the same way. I mean, these things rain down. The grunt health was increased. They now have the baked-in level 20 that when they die, they explode. But guess what? They also lose their health over time. They will not push a lane. You got to drop these things directly on top what you intend to fight, or they won't get anything done at all. Will they do okay in a team fight? Will there be a situation maybe where Jaina runs in and says, "Oh, I got this, everybody," and blows up all the demons, and that blows up Arthas? Maybe. But it's pretty unlikely to happen. And I doubt we're going to enter a situation where everyone's saying, stop killing the demons. You're killing the whole team. This might be great for a level 20 and even beyond 10. Getting yourself that fort down, getting in there for your laser, but even your lasers change. Now your laser builds up until it does a final bit of damage, and no longer will you be standing there for an extended period of time, burning down the buildings, frustrating those watching you. 2.5 seconds is all it takes.
Yeah, he is freed up to engage in the team fights. There's no excuse anymore. And that's what I like about it. That's what I like about it a lot. When I think about the team fight potential of Azmodan with this rework, that's where I start to get positive. Because I think there's something here. I think it needs to be pushed more. I still think if you're going and being like, I'm going to get sweet kills as Azmodan, I think it's easier to play Chromie. I don't know why you're signing up for having to build a damage-dealing hero. But it's a trade-off, right? Because Chromie can't lane clear that great, and sure as hell can't really siege all that great, and Azmodan can. So there is that trade-off there. It's just you have to work, in my mind, so much harder with Azmodan.
Right, if you want to get that kill that's running away, Genji, Tracer are your best friends, not some sweet orb that now has a greater reveal time. It's going to show even earlier, so enemies can dodge it.
Yeah. But it's true. Like, you're trying to catch a Sylvanas? Well, she already used her Haunting Wave. It doesn't matter how much she can see it coming.
Yeah. No, she's going to stand in it oftentimes.
Right. So it kind of depends. And that's what I like. I like Tide of Sin. I like this idea of the orb being the star. Because for me, it's always been the star for Azmodan. And the fact that I can just boost its damage output greatly for a single use of this ability. Every 30 seconds, by the way, which if you haven't tried it, it feels very quick. Like, this is always up. I'm always ready to have a super-powered orb. My problem is I can't collect stacks, but I'm actually scared of good Azmodans in the future.
Well, and we do get some encouragement here. Every single one of your level 1 talents are about stacks and how you choose personally to get them, whether it's through slamming heroes, minions, multiple heroes give you more stacks, or doing auto attacks, which is my favorite build right now because it fills everything out. You're going to have cooldowns between your Globe of Annihilation, your All Shall Burn, and your Demonic Warriors. You only get one. There's no 2 stacks to kind of slam those out quick. So getting out some auto attacks, and with the proper build, you can get stacked pretty decently and have 8 range while you do it. So to people concerned about Azmodan going frontline and dying, well, he did often anyway. And I was happy for it because he's got a lot of health compared to someone like the backline.
Yeah, you're totally right. Of all the specialists that overpush and get caught out, Azmodan is the most equipped to deal with it.
It's worth talking to about Demonic Lieutenant. This is his D trait. It was called General of Hell, but it summoned a Demonic Lieutenant, so they cut out the middleman. Great. It now empowers your allied mercenary minions and Azmodan demons by pushing with it, and not by aura. And when you saw Azmodan's damage numbers, you always had to keep in mind that aura went out, giving everyone around Azmodan a percent-based increase. That damage was part of Azmodan, so it showed up on his tab screen. It gave him XP. He could double soak. Now, since that aura is going away, 25% increased damage to all those minions, mercenaries in the area. That's gone. This thing now has Demonic Smite. So as it pushes a lane, it'll put out a insta-kill on a nearby minion. And that's a last hit. That gives XP. So you get about half the XP of the lane.
That's very cool. I did not realize that was happening.
Yeah, so the double soak, I mean, granted, there were very few situations in the early game where you were going to get a big level lead because Azmodan was double soaking. You kill the general. Everyone does it. It's the whole point. You see that thing, you go, lane's buff, get it. Stop it from even soaking. You know, Abathur is now your go-to guy for that. But he is going to guarantee you now with this instant kill about half that lane if it's unsoaked. And that's pretty good.
Yeah. It's a good boon, right? It's a piece of utility.
And it won't like artificially inflate his siege numbers, meaning that when you lose the game, Azmodan goes, I have 200,000 siege damage. What were you all doing? It's like, well, you could have gotten that sitting in the base, dude.
Hey, Kyle, it's my job. It's my job to crap on the Azmodan players, okay? That's
All right, pardon me. Breaking character there.
You are, yeah. It's in my contract, you know. No. Yeah, that's not a concern of mine. So, yeah, it's odd because it's at its core, it's just a hero I don't particularly care for playing. But there's some stuff in here I really like. Like overall, I like the direction they took Azmodan, and it really just is me kicking and screaming about stacks when the community at large had kind of just accepted that a long time ago, I feel.
And there may be a build in here for you if you don't particularly love getting stacks to still get to that halfway point, get some of your rewards, kind of like Nazebo, right? We have till level like 7. Nazebo's just pretty bad in lane and has real big mana issues. But as long as you get up to that about 100, you can participate in everything. You can take that Gargantuan ult if you really want to. Maybe we don't want to see it. We'd all love to see our Azmodans fully stacked. He has more wiggle room. And for me, as someone who's been fighting Azmodans rather than playing him more recently, he's just less frustrating to watch.
Well, good. Yeah, I want to give it more time. I want to try him against real players. I want to try him with that auto attack talent because I didn't take that in my test, and I think that's going to help me round out my craptacular ability at getting stacks. Because taking the level 1 talent that adds an extra second onto your grace period on when a minion dying will grant you a stack, that just seems like training wheels to me. And I just feel bad taking it. But taking auto attack one, I'm auto attacking anyway. You're absolutely right. What am I doing when the orb's down?
They were really smart about this update in that your level 1 and your level 7 are required annihilation stack talents. There are more training wheelsy kind of talents in here that might make stacking easier, but at the same time, you have to pick one. So there is no build where Pro Azmodan gets to say, I don't need help. Everybody gets help in getting to their max stacks.
Right. Which is good. No.
We all know what happens when, as we talked about in the past, it's forced survivability, forced wisp. Thank goodness they're gone for the most part, but those are lame. But you know what happens if you put survivability up against damage? Melees always take survivability so they can do damage. Range always take range and then complain when their supports don't heal them when they could have taken first aid, It's just what happens.
Yeah, it's an interesting way to design your game. Well, before we move on and take some emails, we have some patrons to thank. Kyle over at patreon.com/ITN. Hundreds of you supporting this podcast, supporting the two of us. And this week, we want to thank Josh M., Michael T., Jack T., Butch C., and Colin G. Thank you very much. I also made kind of a PSA on the Angry Chicken. I'll mention it again here. There's quite a few patrons with out-of-date payment information. This happens anytime your payment info changes. So if you're like me and someone somehow just got a hold of your debit card for the second time this year and your bank is sending you a new one, all of my patron pledges are currently declining, and I need to get in there and update it. So if you would like to keep supporting us or anyone that you support on Patreon, go into patreon.com, check your settings, make sure everything's up to date. We would really appreciate it.
That being said, we made fantastic progress this week to our pro opinion goal. It was so awesome to hear from so many of you on Twitter advertising that you had supported this fine show. Thank you to everybody who just joined, but also thank you to people who've been joining us forever. Some of you are mad champions.
Yeah, man, it's great. And by the way, maybe just add a little fuel. If everyone who was currently had out of date info updated it, we'd be at our goal. So
that's good.
Go check it out. We really appreciate it, everybody, and thank you to all the new patrons. We are thanking you in the order that you pledged. So if you haven't gotten to you yet, don't worry, it's coming. Now let's crack open that mailbag and see what's in it.
Darkness stopped calling.
Darkness just texted me.
It's not the mober, it's a hero brawler!
You can send your emails to itncast@gmail.com. Credo is starting us off this week and asks, are there any tips you can give for when and how to defend structures? Also, if you were to armchair dev some changes, what would they be? Are there any other aspects of the 2018 update you especially enjoy, or any that missed the mark for you? I can't think of anything that particularly missed the mark for me. I mean, they've all kind of been addressed, especially recently with the experience being redistributed and also some of it just straight up being removed. I really like that change.
I'm a fan. Yeah. I think still catapults are a big reward, and that keep XP does need to be reined in a little bit, maybe just map dependent. Since that was a global change, let's knock down some of the easier to get keeps, perhaps. Maybe even increase the keeps on a 2-lane map, even. So that gives XP when there's not a third one to take. But otherwise, man, I love it that I don't watch people farming towers anymore.
Yeah, it feels very good. If that change had not been made, that would be what I would think fell short. It was the game overall was a little too snowball-y based on structure destruction.
Just the walls, bit much.
Mm-hmm.
But things are looking great. And when you lose part of your core base, you're on your way out. It just stinks to being 3 levels down.
Yeah. As for tips on defending structures, I mean, my big one, and I still see it, is let it die. I don't understand why we still have this hang up with suicidal defensive structures. It's something I still see quite often. If it's going down, if there are 3, 4, sometimes 5 enemies pushing with a wave, and it's definitely going down, and it's just you, or it's just you and a friend, walk away. There is nothing you can do.
I mean, there is some disconnect from other MOBAs. Every MOBA that I know of has a system where if the tower is targeting a thing, it doesn't retarget until that thing is dead. But in other MOBAs, you will find that it prioritizes heroes above minions, summons, and monsters. So when we're solo defending against a push of 5, we can all get a little trapped in that building's got my back. It's right there. It's standing next to me. Why aren't you helping? Illidan's all over me. Why would you work on the archer minions, Mr. Building? And it's tough to let that go.
No, it's not. I just disagree.
No,
it's not. You should have let it go. Unless you came from Dota 2 to this game today, I don't think there's an excuse.
Sure. No, it's true. And it's sad to see, even 2 people go down to a push of 4 because they just swarm over the top of that base and beyond it, particularly during things like Cursed Hollow. Everything's turned off. Those are dead. Yeah. They're dead. And same with Spider Queens. There's too many minions there for that tower to get priority to help you out.
Yep. Yeah, it's rough. It's rough. It's so often the right call is to just push whatever lane you're currently in with a friend and get a wall. Get a fort if you can. That's kind of, I guess that would be the when and how to defend. The when to take is when they're taking yours and there's nothing you can do about it. It's like, all right, well, I guess I'll take one of yours.
Right. There is, getting them off the building that can be useful. And this works a little better with things like the Punisher. You can drag it into another nearby lane and get it to attack maybe a well. Sad to lose a well, but hey, you're in your main base anyway. Who really needs that well left? I love using it for a power up before I head out the door, even if I'm missing like 1/10 of my health, just so I'm regenerating underneath it. It's sad to lose those wells in those defenses, but that can be a bit of a trick. You can get that Punisher from the bottom lane onto the middle wall, perhaps. But when it's human players, the best strategy there is to just stop them from connecting so often, particularly if they have one of those sticky characters like an Illidan that is so focused on buildings, or somebody like Vala that when they can plant their feet will destroy that building better than any specialist. Fighting them out in front of your towers rather than on top of them is actually the best bet.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. As for like how to defend structures, there's a loaded question that is very specific, kind of on a per hero basis. So not really sure where to even begin on that, but I would say take into account the objective, and if that objective is currently on the structure that you are defending, something like, because one of my baseline things for defending that I really like to say is look for the opening to get a kill. But that also depends on what the objective is. I think this is extremely dangerous with a Punisher, especially if it's, say, an Arcane Punisher. But really, any of the Punishers can really wreck your day if you try and go dive on a target while the Punisher is pushing. But something like the Spider Queen, which is very deliberate, extremely predictable, you can get a lot of kills during the Spider Queen. It's great if it's on your fort and you don't particularly care about your fort.
Yeah. And giving that up so dramatically in such a strong choice can cause an enemy wipe. And when you wipe out those 2 level up heroes, even with the XP they're going to get off that keep, you will rocket up dramatically in XP. They are worth tons more than yourself. And we've gone over those numbers directly in previous episodes.
Yeah, you may even get yourself a window of opportunity, especially if we're talking keeps and later in the game, to go and counteractively take a keep yourself.
It's also not bad in these maps where the objective's just going to happen to plan for it in the draft. Like, if Garden Terror ever entered the main rotation again, Tychus Leoric stock goes rising up because they can deal with those Garden Terrors that are just going to happen. Doing it on Dragonshire can sometimes be a bit of a chance. You don't really always want, well, certainly not Leoric. He's going to have a little bit of trouble because you have to Drain Hope the Dragon, and then you're going to get kicked because he wants to disconnect that. It's a great way to disconnect it. So you Ghost to dodge. But kind of like our Raynor example earlier, now ghosting was used in a situation that wasn't an escape to continue attacking, and then you die because you don't have the ghost to get out later. Instead, you can think of things like Kael'thas, Burn Flesh. 8% giant killer there at level 7 for hitting 2 heroes. Vehicles count as heroes. I had a very rewarding game this past week where the enemy backline was all spell damage, a Genji and a Nazebo. They didn't interact with the tank. They didn't target me. So everything was auto attacks, a Muradin and an Artanis in my face. I was Varian. I took Warbringer at 10 so I could get that ridiculous cooldown on my charge into Juggernaut for a 4% giant killer and just slam over and over again that dragon. 4% of its health a go. It was so fantastic. Taunts for the Genji and everything like that, but one of these late game talents able to help me make that recovery.
Yeah, that's something you got to see. You got to put kind of connect the dots, right? And that's something you talk about. Like be careful. You don't pick Varian for that reason because now you're drafting to lose. But if you pick him and you find yourself in that situation, suddenly you have an out.
Exactly. And those can be very powerful, tricks depending on the hero you're on. But so often, and particularly when you get to core defenses, as we talked about earlier, you gotta pick the fight out in front. And something we've done in our own patron games, which is very viable in a 5-man situation, let the objective pass. That dragon, maybe, player controlled again, can't predict it, but the Punisher, let it walk past. Haunted Mines, that will outdistance the team and then gank from behind because that objective has a great forward focus, particularly on Haunted Mines. Running around behind rather than trying to fight into their monster will actually cause a better team fight for your team.
Flank is basically what you're saying. Instead of going through the monster, go around it.
Flanking. Now, granted, you're going to lose the building, but at least the team is dead.
Right. And it really just comes out, a lot of times it's about sacrifice and about mitigating your losses. And a lot of times the best way to mitigate your losses is to get kills.
Middle is always the most trafficked lane. Let it go. But it's sometimes worth it to just give it your all for one of those side lanes.
Yes, absolutely. I'm with you. Tane or Graham writes in and says, I have, for some reason that is not at all based on a new skin, found myself thoroughly enjoying Ariel. Me too. enjoying her, but not winning with her. It seems no matter what team I end up against, my healing is always significantly lower than the enemy healer, often Kerosene for some reason. Do you have any tips to help me improve? I'm a high bronze, low silver player, if that's any help. Thanks for any advice you can give. Graham. Yeah, I think Ariel is, first I would say it seems like maybe you need a better trait target or you need to be moving your trait more often. It's probably the most obvious one. Who's going to get have it on whoever's doing damage. Yeah, that Kael'thas is going to be yelling at you to put it on him, but if he's not attacking, he's not helping you get any hope. So we need to move it around. This also ties into something that you've talked about for years now on the show, Kyle, which is like finding your friend or like finding the guy that you want to empower. Like who's open? It just hit tab real fast. Who's doing the most damage? Guess who's getting the crown? Person on your team is doing the most damage.
It's got a 1.5 second cooldown, so you can bounce this thing around. Li Ming, 8 seconds between orbs. Kael'thas, 7. Jaina, 16. There on her blizzard and whatnot.
And
keep that thing moving.
And I don't want to generalize, but lower leagues, those mages are probably not landing too many auto attacks.
No, there's not a lot of buffer between those big burst spells.
Yeah. So that's kind of what I'm saying here. More often than not, I think the tank is probably the safest player to put it on if you're just starting out with Ariel. The other is just spam your heal. It is not precious. It is on a low cooldown.
That's a good point. Let's actually take a look at, because a lot of lower leaguers are just going to head straight to hot slogs, grab the most popular build, and it is actually Empathetic Link, the one where you would put that on the tank and get hope back for the damage that they're receiving. But you can also take talents like increasing the cast speed of your Sacred Sweep in order to just get it out, smack some minions to get a heal that way. The biggest thing, if you're in bronze and silver, the first thing that comes to mind for me is you don't auto attack enough. And those auto attacks build up a lot of hope. It's also being in that auto attack range means you're in range for your whip to put people into stuns with your detainment strike. In particular, level 7, if you have no hope on the team, nobody's a mage, everyone does baby damage, you don't want to hat anybody, Energized Cord is amazing. 100% bonus from your own auto attacks to your hope. Learn to auto attack as a big feature in advancing your league.
Yeah, I mean, we've had devs on this show say that one of the most common links between higher level or higher placement hero or healers versus others is damage done. So if you can learn to land attacks as Ariel, you're going to see yourself win more. And it's not just because you're just helping kill things, you're healing more as a result because you're taking your hope generation into your own hands.
And it's time to make one more transformation. Very powerful thing to do on Greymane. You don't do damage, you do mobility while you do damage and totally kill them, and it's awesome. But Aegis is the same way. It's a sweet cleanse. Yes, it's cool to save someone from a rewind on Chromie. Yes, you can save someone from being targeted down or standing in a blizzard with that 2 seconds they're inside of it. But you know what it really is? It's a way to transform your Illidan into a giant bomb and make him explode all over the enemy, getting a massive heal for him. Think of Aegis like a bomb.
You just turn someone into a Diva self-destruct on a shorter fuse.
It's a lot of damage. It really is. When you look it up, remember, whenever you look up spells in a database, they are always set to their level 1 value. When I look at, Ariel here on something like Heroes Fire, one of my favorite sites, 255 is the damage sitting there. When I put that up, well, actually, this is actually fixed. They did it. Hey, congratulations. Oh, that's awesome. They fixed it. But sometimes it doesn't work that way in game. And you'll see a really low number. You take it at 10. That's a really big number now.
Yeah. It's I like Ariel. But
yeah, there it is. So 255 when you look at it, level 1. Nearly 360 damage at 10.
Yep. Back to spamming Ray of Heaven. Just spam it. It's a 4-second cooldown. I didn't know the cooldown off the top of my head.
Doesn't cost you anything because it's costing you hope in the first place.
Exactly. As you get more nuanced, you'll learn when to hold on to your hope for larger heals and whatnot. But I would say out the gate, just if it's ready, use it.
Not a bad idea. Don't hold on to those things too much in your league.
Yeah, it's interesting. But yeah, I think I think biasing your crown to your tank is going to help a lot. Landing your auto attacks is probably going to help you the most. As far as your health generation, which is going to lead to more healing. So tweet at us, ITNcast, at Garrett Art, at Kyle Fergusson. I want to know if this advice helped. But I, too, have been trying to relearn the Ariel. And for me, it has definitely come down to auto attacks.
Yeah, that's the biggest performance change. And she has such great little power spikes, 20, 16, 13, the whole way. I mean, she is a great hero. And not as diveable as you think with the self-cast Aegis.
Yeah. Yeah, it's good. I like it quite a bit. Final email today comes to us from Nate, who says, I've gotten to the point where I loathe playing after about 2 to 3 games. I love this games, but I can't stand the toxicity in Hero League, nor the terrible playing despite the engine supposedly placing me with players of similar rank. How do you guys keep the faith? Or can I play with people that aren't a-holes? LOL.
First, I'd recommend you go to /join AMoveTV to find fabulous teammates. And regardless of what you picked, I have never seen anybody in the AMoveTV flame your pick. They always are like, what do we need? And I'm like, it's quick match. Play what you want. And they're like, no. What does the comp need? I'm like, it's quick match. Play what you want. They love it. We're all taking this game pretty serious here. We all listen to this show. We love to talk about the game. AMoveTV is a great way to find people to play with.
We enjoy the puzzle.
Yeah.
We're all assembling a puzzle together.
And don't forget either that we do, even though it wasn't a part of this next patch, this PTR right now, on the horizon is that quick match change where they're going to try to make balanced team for us. If you can keep the faith along the way, keep working on your favorites, learn what you can. You know, every loss is an opportunity to get better kind of thing. I know that's, it's crazy when the points are going and you're watching your screen turn red because you're on demotion.
Yeah. I find just switching things up, try fulfilling a different role for a change, try filling in different slots, and changing just the team dynamic. It's not a perfect fix by any means, but if you can find some kind of a correlation between the toxicity that you're seeing and the role that they're fulfilling, try filling the toxic roles.
And unranked isn't a bad place either, but one of the first things I think of when I see this, and I often hear, is things like ETC. Lower impact, high stun heroes. Those can be insanely frustrating to play. If you are playing, even something like Maev, who has been continually scaled down, people don't follow you up. People don't add their heroic when you put up your Warden's Cage to the pile. People don't expect you to mosh. They push people out of your mosh. Get off those heroes. It's not worth it.
Yeah. I do have to say, though, I've been having very positive experiences as of late. It's not perfect. I obviously still have toxic experiences, but overall, it's actually been pretty solid. And it's not like every game I get into, everyone's a listener of this show and recognizes my handle.
Totally.
But it's like, I don't know, it's been surprisingly pleasant for me lately. But I've also been casting a wide net, playing a lot of different heroes, getting out of my comfort zone, and finding my own goals, and even at times turning chat off while I learn something new.
And I've played very little quick match this season except for Urel, who I just straight up enjoy. I play a lot of unranked these days. And when you're looking at your allies and they're upsetting you, sometimes picturing their power spikes can be one of the best things to do. I have seen some of the worst Arthas play I have ever encountered in the past 3 weeks.
Out of yourself?
Other people. Like, it's insane because I'm thinking of a time period where Arthas just won the solo lane, right? So to me, these new Arthases don't know how to solo lane, and it can be maddening. But then they get Icebound Fortitude, and then they get Army of the Dead, and they're completely different players. They're amazing. It reminds me of old Hover Siege hammers that just couldn't play the game. But then they got Hover Siege and they were fine,
Yeah. The Kael'thas's were like that, right? It's just middling until 16 back in the day.
Yeah. Boy, I tried a Convection build this past week. Had no mana at all. It was awful.
I hate it. I really hate it. If I'm playing with you, like tonight, I might go Convection, especially on a 2-lane map. That's because I'm backed up. Everyone's on the same page. Everyone's helping me do my thing. In a pickup game, there's nothing that... Azmodan might be the only thing I want to play less.
It's there's no mana there. It's awful. You just don't get to play the video game. You got to hearth back constantly. Maybe it's because I've been playing Gul'dan, right? And when I go to 2-lane map, I'm like, why aren't I Gul'dan in the first place? This would have been better.
Maybe, Kyle. Or maybe it's just because living bombs are just so much more fun.
And cheaper.
Yes,
and better.
free.
In general, you should mana addict and even fell infusion. Mana just don't convert.
It's the right decision in certain scenarios. I understand why you would want to take it, but again, I think I'm having a realization here, Kyle. I don't like signing up for a chore.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that's why, quests have been a little down for both of us for a time period. And, when you look at Kel'Thuzad, that is my biggest target for a rework right now. That man, he needs to have a showing. He is. I'm playing through the Warcraft 3 campaign right now. He is awesome. Kel'Thuzad is sweet. I love him. I've been reading so much about WoW Classic 2 recently, and Nax Ramus is a legend. But Kel'Thuzad's got to stack up, and that's kind of sad.
Not doing it for me.
Now, see, what they should do, your quest should be that you start as a phylactery and someone has to go throw you into the enemy healing well.
No.
They have to get down the wall.
Listen, points, all the points in the world for flavor, Kyle, but...
I would rather stack by having no participation for 5 minutes on Kel'Thuzad and being thrown into a well when they finally get that first wall down than having to sit through 10 minutes of grinding this quest.
Okay, so this is very well flavored and also extremely personal.
Yes.
Cool. Good to know. Glad we found the honesty in this request. But yeah, listen, toxicity is here. It comes and goes. It comes and goes in waves. You have good weeks. You have bad weeks. You've got to find your own ways to deal with it. And playing with friends is a great sidebar in this game.
But sometimes you get tunnel vision, and there's nothing like a break. And
too.
Sadly, the Steam sale is over, but, there's a lot of good games to take on as projects. Play with trains. Both Garrett and I kind of do that nowadays. You got your cars, I've got my XCOM at the moment. It's important.
Yep. You just need that thing that you go and you do alone, or maybe with your better half and nobody else, and you don't do a show about it, and you don't stream it, and you don't play it with other people, and you just sit there and tinker like a little dork.
Yeah.
It's great. Go be a little dork is what I'm saying. It recharges your batteries. It makes you come back with a fresh brain for solving the puzzle.
Yeah.
So, that's going to wrap it up. That brings us to the end of the show. You can keep those emails coming, itncast@gmail.com. You can support us by becoming a patron, and ITN patrons get access to things like the Patron Bonanzas. We're doing one tonight. We're going to be doing 5 games with our patrons in Team League. It's usually the first Thursday of every month. Head on over to patreon.com/ITN to become a patron, to support the show, and also gain access to perks like that. Huge thanks to our producers, Declan H and Cheesy Bob. Thank you for the generosity, gentlemen. Into the Nexus t-shirts can be purchased over at shirts.amove.tv. We also have custom etched glassware, things like coffee mugs, wine glasses, stuff like that. You can find that at etched.amove.tv. We typically record live Thursdays at 5 p.m. Eastern Time on twitch.tv/AmoveTV if you want to come join our lovely and very friendly chat room. It's also a great place to make friends and heroes. Come join us. Next week, it looks like we will be recording an hour later, as there's a scheduling conflict for Mr. Jeff Kanata, and he's going to be joining us.
It'd be great to have him on the show.
Yeah, looks like weeks that he's on, we may be doing a hour later record a little more on the regular. But we'll see how that kind of shakes out. Follow us on Twitter at ITNcast, at Kyle Fergusson, at Garrett Art. And Kyle, before we go, where can everybody find everything else you're doing?
You can find me over at twitch.tv/Kyle Fergusson. But this week, there's a lot of stuff we don't cover. There was so many talents we didn't talk about today. And if you have been feeling tilted by this game, sometimes you just need to cut out the middleman. Sometimes you're getting your reactions before you've read the facts from websites, from forums, and the like. I suggest you head over to amove.tv, click on this fine show, find the episode. There are show notes crafted by us that we create when we go over the news each week. Often there's things that we didn't talk about. We're still important news about it. check out those docs there. It is a great way to get yourself caught up. It's already organized for you. All the important stuff's going to be in those show notes.
Sweet. Good promotion there, Kyle. All of the other podcasts I do can be found at amove.tv, including this one. Kyle and I have a second podcast. It is called Week Sauce. It is spelt like days of the week, and it is all one word. Again, Week Sauce. It is our Monday morning show. It's just a nerdy morning show. We get on, we talk about the latest happenings in movies, TV, video games, our lives. It gets kind of stream of consciousy, like weirdly introspective. I thoroughly enjoy it. It helps me start my week. Maybe it'll help you start yours.
Well said.
Check it out. That's going to wrap it up for this episode. If you're watching live right now, we will be back at 9 p.m. Eastern to start our patron bonanza and to go kick some trash in Team League. We'll see you then, and until the next episode, good luck and have fun.
Take care.
I mean, you should always good luck and have fun, not just until the next episode, but you get the idea.
Yeah. Well, we do one every week, so we're kind of covering the distance between, but I do hope there are people out there that are like, oh, I really need that one this week. Is Garrett going to say it? I'm concerned.
I need it. I need it this
my
week.
Refresher.
I need it this week. This week is weird, and I'm tired, and 4th of July was really fun, but it's like I was ready for the weekend, but the weekend wasn't here yet. Weird stuff.
Well, good show, man. That was a lot of stuff to get through, and I think we motored on through.
Oh, I agree. I'm adjusting my camera so I can sit. Brr.
Cool. I'm going to open the window.
Oh, nice. I'm going to remove this beanie. Fluff out the hair. Reposition the mic a little bit.
Get some airflow in the studio.
Studio airflow is good.
It is. It's important.
It's pretty necessary. Where's the intro to the show? There it is. Actually, I'm going to end the stream so that I can get the VOD out. So, chat room, thank you for joining us. We will see you for Patreon games in 2.5 hours.
See you there.